Dr. German will begin with the superintendent's report.
First item of business, FOIA requests. I've had none at this time. And about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, we had a board retreat in the town center and did some long-term and short-term goals. And I submitted those to the board. Those are just my notes of the evening. So if you could give those a look and give me some feedback, and we'll revisit those next month and clean those up as more of a final copy for action in December. Dr. Humboldt and Mr. Wagenbach have suggested we have maybe a biannual support staff communication where we have a sit down with different members of the support staff and solicit their input and feedback on how things are going within the district, and then listen to what they have to say along with our own interpretations of things and make appropriate adjustments as needed. So that will be happening soon. Has a couple items of good news. There was a clean sweep for the Dunlap district as far as our administrative team. Our administrators, our principals are part of the Illinois Principals Association and are members of the Central Illinois Valley region. And each year they name a high school principal of the year, elementary principals of the year, and then assistants in both those categories as well. And we had the elementary principal of the year out of Dunlap Grade School, which is Mandy Ellis. And our other administrator of note was the Central Illinois Valley Region Assistant Principal of the Year, and that's out of Hickory Grove, and that's Mrs. Michaela Rickman. Last item that I have is the school report card was released from the embargo today at noon. Mr. Andrews put together a press release for us and sent that out. And I've asked him next month to kind of give an information item about the school report card and the information that's available on there and how different things are calculated, because it has changed and it is very complicated. So he will be giving that to the board next month. That is all I have at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. German. At this time, we will move on to public comments. If there's anyone who wishes to address the board, please raise your hand. Very good. If you could come down, please, and sign in. And before we ask you to speak, or like you to listen to what the board would like to remind you of as far as our guidelines for speaking. Per board policy 2.230, we ask that when addressing the board, you identify yourself and please be brief. Comments shall be limited to 5 minutes. The speaker is asked to please conduct oneself with respect and civility towards others. It is advisable that individuals under the age of 18 who wish to address the board be accompanied by his or her parent or guardian. The board typically does not engage in two-way conversations during the public participation portion of the meeting. Any follow-up response that is requested will be addressed by the administration at a later date. It is recommended that to be respectful of others and protect confidentiality, complaints against individual students, staff members, or board members, either named or unnamed, be presented in closed session or be put in writing, signed by the person or persons making the charges, and delivered to the Board of Education Secretary. At this time, I would like to ask anyone who wishes to address the board to come forward, sign the public participation sheet, then each speaker may come to the podium and begin speaking into the microphone, stating their name and the topic that they wish to be addressing. Thank you.
Can you hear me? Okay. I know many of you on the board know who I am, My name is Pete Mangieri. I am the principal of Mangieri Companies, and I reside in Peoria, but our kids are in Dunlap District. And what I wanted to talk about this evening for a few minutes is, first of all, I want to thank the Dunlap School District and its Board of Education and the community for placing so much trust and confidence in my company over 22 years of building all of your school facilities. I don't know if any of you all know that, but we were your guy, and I put all my heart and soul into every single project, making sure that the district was never taken advantage of, and holding every single contractor, tradesman, and anyone who was associated with that project accountable, including the design team, to the quality expectations that Dunlap and the community expected, and it was entitled to. What I really want to say this evening is, so for the most part, I just want you to know that my time assisting the district, it's been a true blessing to me and my family, and I will forever be indebted to every board member that's here and the ones in the past, and there's been plenty. But I have some parting thoughts, and what's really, it's been bothering me a little bit, especially on this last project. We did the Dunlap Valley grade school, or middle school additions. There were 3 pods in a gymnasium and a little bit of site work. I had never experienced a more uncooperative local consultant, and they happen to be your district architect. It is, and I'm going to throw the name out there, it's Farnsworth Group. I've dealt with them for years. In fact, I have introduced them to several of my potential leads, and we've had a very good working relationship over the year. I won't say it was terrible, but on this past project it wasn't good, and Wold was your lead consulting architect. But just for starters, just on this project alone this year, and the basis of my presentation or my discussion is they've been here a long time. I feel they're taking advantage of the district that I put my heart and soul into. They have grown exponentially over the years. We stayed a boutique company because we wanted to make sure that every client we touched was led by the director of the company. You guys get a presentation by a group of people who once they present, tell you all the things that are going to happen, and then they don't show up again. And they've got a lot of young engineers who, I remember years ago, they were greenhorns, which means they were just new, and now they're leading structural departments, and they're leading certain divisions of this company. And they've gotten to a point where at one time I felt I was a mentor. Today I feel like I'm just a number. And I don't know if you're feeling the same, but I'm going to draw a few things to your attention. It was a 30,000 square foot project, should have been built well within 12 months. There were 3 phases to bid. First phase came out relatively on time. The second phase came out late, the third phase came out late. And the group that shouldered the burden, and when that happens, then your drawings lack detail. And it was a grueling process trying to pull the structural design together with the architectural design, and those were, one was a local consultant, the other one was your lead architect. And at one time we had a meeting where I said if there was ever a plaque to be put on this school addition like there is on the original building, I said it would never say Wold and Farnsworth and Mangieri companies, and I laid out 4 people's names. I was one of them, my superintendent was another, the mason foreman and the concrete foreman were the other. Without those people, this thing would have been a travesty. And we never once brought in we never turned it into a bloodbath. We just went along our merry way and kept things rolling. We spent some money on winter conditions we didn't expect to spend. That was a result of consulting group trying to stonewall the project because they weren't the lead. We had structural issues with the foundation of the gym. We worked those out. We had reinforcing every 8 inches on center. They were 2 number 7s. That is an over-design by probably 5 times. And we were told, you just go ahead and build it the way we designed it. We then had issues with putting in all of the devices that fit in that wall, which is a masonry wall with those rebar in there. And then all of a sudden we were told, take one of them out and put them every 8 inches on center, but not 2. And I thought, well, now that's nice. Now you got 1 instead of 2, and here we go. And then we get to the beam pockets, which I know I'm boring a lot of people who don't understand construction, and maybe some of the board, but we started to put these beam pockets in. There was no direction on the plans, which you paid handsomely. Okay, you're paying 6-7% for design. You paid us 1% profit to build your building. And we figured every single one of those out. So when you line up your steel, they go into a very specific port hole in the side of the existing building. And all of a sudden we're cutting in bond beams, which are structural. We call up the architect, call up the structural engineer, send a picture. Didn't come out until they had to come out. And, oh, well, that's okay. How is it okay? That can't be okay. So I said, that's just, you know, there's just things here that are just not settling with me. So everything got worked out. Long story short, we end up building a building. You end up with the savings that we had on the project. We presented it for Dr. Holmes and the district to start taking care of some of the wish list items on the project. One of them was a canopy. Canopy should have been built and finished by June. We didn't even have the drawings until the middle of, I swear we didn't get the drawings until the 1st of June. We were working on that way back in the winter, and Farnsworth was responsible for the structural design. They asked us, we asked if we could use a certain kind of spread footing, and we used a pier. Why did we use a pier? Because we didn't want to compromise the south wall of the gym. And so as we were drilling the piers, we had a sewer pipe. Sewer pipe was shown on the plans, wasn't dimensioned. It was far enough off the line of our drill, so we ended up cutting a hole in the foundation, or in the grade there, to dig up the sewer pipe, probably 3 or 4 feet wide by 6 or 7 feet deep, and we ripped it out and we put in a new one. All along we were compromising the south side of the gym. That was okay because they failed to put it on the plan. So every time it was our fault, it was our fault. Every time it was their fault, it was okay. And you just need to pay attention to some of these things. So going forward, and it gets better with me anyways, because we've never ever wanted to take a company like ours, which was a boutique company, and kind of go up against a larger company and call out some of their shortcomings. But when you built the Murphy Memorial Press Box at the baseball diamond, Ed Murphy said, I got $25,000, and the district says, the architect said that should be plenty. Started designing it, they said it's going to be $37,500. $37,500 comes along, and it's not enough. He says 50 is my limit, and that's it. Anything over 50 has to be publicly bid. So you bid it, it came in at $74,000. We're going to fast forward. Ed calls Pete, me, and Jerry. I call up all the contractors, and I said, this is what I want you to do, this is how we're going to do it. I think we built that for $46,500. I personally got involved, charged the district not a dime, charged the Murphys not a dime, and that wasn't the difference of the 75. I remember calling Farnsworth out on the foundation and saying, how are we supposed to make these vertical rebars in the footing tie into the horizontal bars? And they came out and looked at it, and they said, you just got to do it that way. I said, it's impossible, you can't do it. And so here I am, trying to explain to somebody who once I was their mentor, and now I'm being told, do it the way the plan says, and the plan doesn't work. So we let them out. We ended up, they said, just dowl them in, and all we wanted to do was slush them in, and they said, there's too much air in the footing. So we did what they told us to do, and bottom line was, it's a 2-story press box. What we were asking for from a practical standpoint was 100% okay, but from a technical standpoint, it was just stonewalling the fact that that's our design, you do it this way, and you know, it's kind of, nobody gets hurt. So we did the press box. Your junior wing that we built back in 2009, I remember calling and asking to finish up the civil plans, because in September, if we were to get a 2 or 3 inch rain, it would flood the the addition, and it flooded the addition. A month later, we got a 3-inch rain, and Pete Mangieri stood in front of everybody and said, if your insurance won't cover the damages, we will. But they walked away from that saying, we didn't have anything to do with that. And it had everything to do with the grade not being finished, the design. So then, the concession stand that we have between the ball diamonds here, okay? Biggest travesty in the whole time I was here. Kept saying that is not the location you need to put that. They said, you build it, we'll design it. I don't think that concession stand has sold 100 hot dogs since it's been built. I don't know, 10, 7, 8, 9 years ago. It's the worst doggone investment the district ever had. It was the best one they should have had. And they should have put 2 of them, one behind the varsity field and one behind the girls' diamond, or they should have consolidated them like they did and put it in between the left field line of the softball and the right field line of the hardball diamond, and everything would have been fine. But there is a useless piece of structure that cost, I don't know what it cost at the time. So at the end of the day, what I'm trying to say is, I think it's time that just because someone says they're your district architect, they should be challenged, just like me. I built 22 years of work here, and I was called to be a construction manager, gave a proposal, and then was told he's got to compete like everybody else. So I've been in this district, I've given you my heart and soul. I'm a big reason why you've got the very first all-purpose athletic field out there, and the list goes on and on. But yet, a company called Farnsworth Group takes it, is literally sends you a bill and expects you to pay it. Why? Without detail. I got a call the other day. I got a $34,000 bill for this. I go, you got to be kidding me. Ask for the detail. I got the detail. What is it? It was a 3-paragraph email explaining why. I said, no shot. Get the timesheets. Get everything else. That's how we would be audited. So anyway, I know my time is up, and I'm going to say farewell. I have enjoyed 35 years of commercial construction. Over the years, I think we put $750 million worth of work in place under my direction. Couldn't be more proud, and I have absolutely loved every minute of working with people like you, because I told you what we were going to do. We did it. We 100% always return money to you, and I don't think we ever had an issue at any board meeting in all these years, Carrie, where we had to have a contentious meeting about money, numbers, moving somebody in, and so thank you. Appreciate it.
I know we can't have interaction, we don't typically talk during public participation, but I've got to say that I've known Pete Mangieri for decades, and I have nothing but respect for him. It took a lot of courage for him to come here and make that presentation. Pete, we appreciate it, and I'm going to ask right now that this be put on the agenda for next month.
Is there anyone else who wishes to address the board?
Sure, I'll go after that. Good evening. My name is Megan Evans. I am currently a SEPCO employee and a Dunlap parent. Both of my daughters go to Banner, one's in kindergarten and one's in 3rd grade. And fun fact about me, I'm coming to speak to you for the very first time tonight, which happens to be my 36th birthday. Tonight, I'm speaking to you about the early childhood proposal. Tonight you will hear the proposal about the restructuring and/or reorganization of the early childhood programs in Dunlap, starting with the 2020-2021 school year. I have been teaching early childhood special education in Dunlap for 9 years, and this has been my only placement in special education. We started with 2.5, and that's 2 full-time and 1 part-time ECE classrooms at the Dunlap Activity Center. And we were in a separate building from our teammate, the teacher of the Blended Bright Futures classroom, which was at the time housed in Dunlap Middle School. Then in 2012, student numbers were low enough that one of our classrooms was closed, so we moved the 1.5 early childhood programs and the Blended Bright Futures program together in one building in the beautiful Hickory Grove, where we have been ever since. 2 years after that, the number of ECE students rose enough that my classroom was opened up to full-time, giving us the 2 ECE classrooms and 1 Blended Bright Futures classroom that Dunlap has today. The preschool programs at Dunlap were scattered and in old crumbling buildings, but then brought together in the newest, most beautifully structured building in the district, with a pod that was designed specifically to meet our students' needs. Each preschool classroom has a restroom in it, and we use the middle of the pod for our gross motor times, not to mention the value of inclusion activities, having students from all 3 of our rooms interact together. Being in the same school building also allows us 3 teachers to meet often for brainstorming, lesson planning, team building, collaborating, and of course supporting each other. Moving forward, as of today's date, there are currently 31 students out of 40 possible ECE spots attending mine and Christy Pavone's early childhood classrooms. That leaves 9 open spots, and we're already at the end of October. Trending data shows that our classrooms ending the last 3 school years at almost full each year. And as of today, there are currently 9 children on the referral list that will be transitioning from EI, which is early intervention services, or they will be going through a screening process called a play-based assessment. If those students qualify, they can start attending one of our ECE programs on or after their 3rd birthday. Again, to clarify, as the children turn 3 years old throughout the calendar year, they can start school even in May. I share this data with you so that you may see that there is a need for these 2 ECE programs based on numbers alone. Furthermore, later you will also hear of the proposal to reduce the number of aides in the early childhood classrooms. My intention here is to simply share with you what our aides do. In the ECE classroom specifically, the 3, 4, and 5-year-old students we have with mild to severe developmental delays can require a lot of adult supervision and support. The aide's primary purpose is to ensure the safety of our students while at school. They are a priceless asset to the teacher, assisting with gathering materials for projects and lessons, cleaning the insane amount of contaminated toys, making and organizing all of the visual supports and accommodations from IEPs that students require, disinfecting the classroom environment to prevent the spread of germs, changing out toys and books to keep the classroom engaging while also labeling the shelves. Aides are expected to assist with reinforcing the curriculum, helping make observations and documenting data for IEP goals, helping to teach and implement those visual supports and accommodations from IEPs, helping students transition from point A to point B, such as from the classroom to the playground or library, diaper changes, and yes, even toilet training, as well as assisting students with learning other self-care tasks, such as nose wiping and hand washing and fostering independence. They play with our students, they read to them, they give them hugs when someone gets boo-boo, and they continue to reinforce that they are welcome and safe at our schools. This is just a quick list that only touches the tip of the iceberg of how important it is to have high-quality support staff. We heavily rely on our classroom aides to do what they do so that we can take care of the rest, and we greatly appreciate all that they do for our students. Mr. Etnar has even said that we are the strongest early childhood team that we've had in Dunlap, and we hope to see that continue. I am most certainly willing and able to chat with any of the board members about how our ECE programs currently function and the proposed restructuring. I hope to make this a smooth transition for our students and our families and all early childhood staff. I've provided my contact information below. I have a copy of all of this to share with all of you. Thank you very much for your time and consideration.
talk a little bit about the transportation recommendations. And I'm 100% for everything on there. I think it's, all those proposals are very good. Can you hear me all right? Or slow down a little bit maybe? Okay. Anyway, I agree 100% with all those proposals, but there's, as a driver for the last 6 years, I don't think that much has been done in this proposal to help the older drivers. Specifically, if you notice, there's 6 drivers at 2207, and it's kind of self-serving because I'm one of them. But we hired in at $20 6 years ago, and we were supposed to get a raise after 3 years. And then the previous board and administrations kind of nixed that after what we promised it. It was in writing. And we were supposed to get grandfathered, but it never happened. In fact, we had numerous meetings, and one of the meetings they actually told us they never intended to give us that raise. So that's kind of in the past. But now we moving these new drivers up to a competitive rate so we can keep the drivers that we have and hire new drivers, and it's a great proposal, but it doesn't address the drivers that are experienced drivers. Yeah, I mean, we were, as one of the ones at 6, when they move everybody up to our rate of 2207, that's our rate that we have right now after 6 years. So basically I could start next week and get the same amount of money after I've been here for 6 years. And I think it's time that the board factored in what we were promised before and made it right with us, that we've been kind of overlooked. And like I say, as part of the other stuff, I think it's all 100%. I think that the current drivers that do have seniority and have been there for a while should be considered for a little bit of a bump. And then,
I just want to
our
add,
case, a lot of big bump.
I just want to add, hi, I'm Tracy Bond. Thank you for letting us speak tonight from Dunlap Transportation. We did not get a chance to look at the proposal until today, so we didn't even know. We knew we wanted to present something to the board. We thought we were all going to be included in it. However, it didn't happen that way. So for us drivers who are current drivers and seniority drivers, obviously we need to raise the pay to bring people to Dunlap so we can get drivers, because we are now a transportation where nobody wants to come. So the 2207 that you bring them to, that's awesome. And we applaud that. However, for the current drivers and then your seniority drivers, we never got grandfathered in, or what are you going to offer us to keep us wanting to come every day when, just like what Mark just said, if you're bringing in a new driver at what we have worked at for 6 years, what is keeping us there? A bus driver is we don't only drive the bus. We are a teacher to these children, to your students. We are counselors. We greet them every morning. Without us at 5 a.m., at 6 a.m., they would not get to school. It is a lot more in detail. We get a CDL license. We are CPR trained. We take it seriously. I don't think it's just about money, and I want to point that out. It's a job that we enjoy. It's a job that we want to come to, but we also want to be appreciated at the same time.
Sorry, bus drivers and boys that earn their wings and have them before they get there. So thank you for all you bus drivers do, and we'll definitely be discussing it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sue Cruz, and I teach 4th grade at Wilderwood. I wanted to comment on a few things that we have encountered at the elementary level that perhaps correlate to some of the discussions that have been had recently regarding the changes in the curriculum at the high school. They're kind of some random observations that I was able to thread together, and hopefully you can follow my train of thought. Among the first questions I get asked at back to school night in August, as I meet new families, is how can I prepare my child for the COGAT test? This is a question that teachers receive beginning in 2nd grade. You're probably aware those tests are intended to be a measure of intelligence, and they're among the information we use to qualify students for our enrichment program. I tell parents these tests are designed to measure natural intelligence and not intended to be prepared for. Inevitably, they follow with a question something like, yes, but where can I get materials so we can practice? Another observation, the past few years we discovered some parents actually got a hold of the official spelling bee list. There's students who have memorized the actual judge's list word for word. During a couple of recent spelling bees, when the words are presented from the current list, these students rattle off the letters without a pause. If we deviate and use a list from another year, they quickly become confused and misspell. Our 5th grade teachers yearly give a math contest to students. It's one that's administered nationally and for which awards are given to the top performing students at the end of the year. Last year, one of these students shared with his teacher that his parents had gotten a copy of it for him so he could practice at home. Of course, we also have children whose parents have them practice, sometimes nightly, for the IAR, PARC, or whatever the current test flavor of the year is. These are just a few examples of how badly parents want their children to be on top. Don't get me wrong, we value the support and the high expectations these parents provide. But it's also our job as professionals to help parents at all levels understand that education is not just about some top accolade, nor is it a race to a finish line. How quickly can I get there by taking what more advanced classes? Side note in regards to PE, as a result of our Jay Marino era financial crisis, we combined PE classes at the elementary level, resulting in classes of 50 plus, sharing our once full-time PE teacher with another building. That was some years ago, yet we've never returned to the single classes in PE, thus limiting the physical education experiences for our elementary kids. I go back to the board meeting that I came to last month where you guys heard so many arguments and proposals from educators about the AP decisions being made and the PE curriculum. I was super impressed and proud of how articulately, passionately, and very specifically my colleagues presented their evidence and their professional views on those changes. From academic to social emotional impact to the reminders of what the board's role should or should not be in making these decisions regarding curriculum. It was clear to me these experts were looking out for the best interests of our kids. When the board took their turn to speak, I was dumbfounded to hear how quickly they disregarded what they'd heard. To recall just a few comments, I heard one person say, parents sometimes know their kids better than teachers do. Of course they do, but they do not know the curriculum, the rigor, the expectations of the coursework their children will encounter. There was also a long discussion of the high college costs today. No one will argue that, but it's not the job of the high school to streamline courses in order to save families money. One person mentioned that they experienced their own conflict and stress when dealing with a busy schedule, and I think they said how they might skip the gym even though I know it's not good for me. When our kids are still in their developmental years, isn't it our job to direct them towards what is good for them, rather than allowing them perhaps to reduce PE time so they can pursue more AP and that race to the finish line? I've been a teacher for 36 years and have done that for 28. I've never heard my colleagues feel so disregarded and insignificant as I have recently. To me, the personal-driven agendas that we're witnessing are unconscionable. Among you are a few in that category. Among you are some who tirelessly work to counter that mentality and to hear the voice of teachers. Among you are a few who have not yet decided where you should stand. There's other important decisions coming up that will greatly impact classrooms. Discussions, as you heard tonight, about changes to ECE, Bright Futures, and instructional classes. In these situations, too, we teachers are afraid that our voices will no longer be heard. I'm not sure if any of what you've heard in these last couple months from a variety of sources will influence what you think. But you need to know your actions and decisions should be based on what your true role here is. And if you're overstepping, it's time to recognize that and do the right thing. Thank you.
Yeah, zero? Awesome. Thank you. My name is Corky Card. I teach teach physical education and coach basketball here at Dunlap High School. I'm going to talk about the 3 days of PE. I got our staff here at Dunlap High School with me. I'm going to start off, I made a decision to move my family here a year ago from a community that we had lived in since 1992. I chose Dunlap for several reasons. Obviously, the school has a good reputation for academic and extracurricular success. Principal Scott Adrian came across as a straight shooter and was not disappointed in terms of his leadership and decision-making. Athletic Director Katie Caslett, she promoted a Team Dunlap atmosphere, welcomed me to be part of it. She's the heart and soul of this school. Due to the fact that we share many of the athletes in the off-season, I value a connection and communication with the football coach. Brett Caslett has exemplified that type of integrity, trustworthiness, and it's made it obvious he is interested not only in football success, but the success of all the athletes in sports at Dunlap. I'm a parent of 2 sons in his program. I trust him without reservation. When it came to the basketball job, I called Jeff Parker. Jeff Parker was the head basketball coach of the program before I got it. He told me good things about the people here, but especially about his former assistant coach, Dustin Hess. After that conversation, I knew I had to have Dustin on my staff. I needed to bridge the gap between the past success in basketball and get me up to speed with how things work here in Dunlap. That's the decision I've made since I've been down here. When it came time to make the decision to move, my wife had reservations. We showed up at Dunlap, the school is 1,300. She's like, where's the town? I was like, I wasn't really sure what to tell her. So Mr. Adrian connected me with someone who volunteered their time to show my family the community and all that Peoria and Dunlap have to offer. He spent 5 hours with my family that day, showing us the shopping, the sports, the river, downtown area. He drove us through what seemed like every neighborhood in Dunlap boundaries, just looking at houses. He called his wife. She met us for lunch. What family does that for someone they don't know? That family was Mike and Debbie Wisdom. Due to the positive initial interactions, I knew this was a place for my community. There was really only one negative that came up in my research at Dunlap, and that was its Board of Education. The recurring theme was the lack of transparency and inclusiveness and how they handled controversial situations. That board is gone. This is the board that will be judged on the merits of their decisions, the process that you use to come up with them. I am here to share with you the fact-based benefits that physical education has for our student body, backed by science, data, and professionals. Physical education is a core educational concern. It's not a dispensable option, according to the National Institute of Health. I don't know how much math, I don't know how much science or English our students will need in their chosen field of endeavor, and neither do you. But I do know their health and well-being will impact not only the length of their life, but also the quality of life that they enjoy every day. Student well-being is an ethical and moral responsibility for all stakeholders, thus making it an instructional priority. Before I get to the facts, here's a little history of how we arrived at this point tonight. 2 years ago, the state of Illinois gave each school district the option to go to 3 days a week of PE. This will help smaller school districts who are struggling financially and do not have the facilities for a quality physical education program. The physical education bill only passed due to its inclusion as a part of the funding bill. The physical education bill never passed as a standalone bill. It was voted down every time. This past summer in June, Senate Bill 1189 and House Bill 2234 both passed out of their respective education committees in early spring. These bills do 3 things. They provide 150 minutes a week for physical education for elementary school kids, 225 minutes physical education for middle school, and it changes the current waiver system to mirror what we had in place before. These bills are holding as discussions and analysts and conducted with the legislators in the spring surveys that they were given out. When these bills roll out and pass, any schools that have gone to 3 days of PE will have to increase the amount of time for their students to 75 minutes a day or go back to 5 days of PE per week. Now, is daily physical education important? These are the facts about the effects of daily exercise on your brain. Brain-derived neurotrophic factor is released protecting and repairing neurons from injury and degeneration in the brain. This means it slows down the aging of the brain. Hormones combine with BDNF to actually grow brain cells, regulate mood, and provide mental therapy. The hippocampus, part of the brain concerned with learning and memory, grows in size with regular exercise over time. Norepinephrine is released, improving attention, perception, motivation. Endorphins are released that reduce pain, boost pleasure, resulting in a feeling of well-being. Serotonin is released, enhancing mood. Dopamine is released, improving motivation, focus, and learning. School districts with forethought, like Naperville, they're actually putting students into physical education classes before classes where students are struggling. So if a kid is struggling in math, they're putting them in PE before they go to that math class. Students do not need more seat time or more screen time in the day. Students need to be active. I'm hoping the board will start a dialogue and work through the process that has been instituted through the board policies and procedures already set in place. The process needs to be done respectfully, with transparency, data, facts, and a model from other schools that shows what is best for kids. This past Friday, we had 2 board members ask Physical Education Department head Dustin Hess to join them in a meeting. He was asked how we could make this 3 days of PE work in our district. I mean, seriously, you're asking him, hey, how can you help us get rid of his own job? It would be as if I were to ask you tonight, how can we make the board work with just 5 individuals? I believe there are more pressing items for this board to attend to. You have said this is not about money, but it seems we have a budget problem in our district that needs your attention. I agree with Mike Wizard's comments during the board meeting on October 9th when he said nobody ever cut their way to prosperity. So, it seems to me that you need a little bit more focus for the task at hand, attention and motivation to get things done. If you're not sure what your first step is to do what's right for kids, I have a suggestion. Run a mile. The exercise might help your brain and your body. Thank you.
My name is Chad Klein. I am past president of the Athletic Booster Club. I am the current treasurer of the Athletic Booster Club. I serve on committees here at Dunlap, including the athletic leadership team and the swimming pool committee. I've been an involved parent. I'm here tonight to speak on the proposal to create an additional exemption to reduce phys ed from 5 days per week to 3 days per week as an option. Some of this will be repetitive. I apologize. I did not know what they were speaking upon, so I apologize. Illinois changed the law, allowing phys ed reduced to 3 days per week. It was done to help small communities that were struggling financially and could not afford phys ed. While I understand Dunlap's needs to be fiscally responsible watching revenues and expenses, we are by no means in a crisis. In other words, just because we can cut down on physical education, it may not be best for our students. Phys ed teaches students different ways to be physically active through sports and other physical activities. The Center for Disease Control and Prevention recommends physical activity for 60 minutes per day for children ages 6 to 17. I've heard that people's minds are set before that. This is from the CDC. Physical activity releases chemicals into the body, increasing oxygen in the brain, increased neurotransmitter activity, and increased neurotrophins, which assure the survival of neurons in areas of the brain responsible for learning, memory, and higher thinking. Based upon my stuttering and problems in public speaking, I might want to involve myself in a little more physical activity myself. Physical activity enhances an individual's ability to concentrate and maintain focus. Research also shows that physical activity helps improve academic performance and relieve stress and anxiety. On a darker note, According to a report from the CDC, suicide rates among people ages 10 to 24 years old climbed 56% between the decade of 2007 and 2017. Suicide has now surpassed homicide as the second leading cause of death in people of this age, only behind accidents such as car accidents and drug overdoses, unintended accidents. Why is this important? So the experts say, well, what I read, experts say anxiety and stress are factors involved in this. Sorry, I apologize. Knowing this information, why do we want to cut resources and create more exemptions from a program that creates opportunity for physical activity to our students, that helps improve our students' physical and mental health? The process. The phys ed cut is being proposed as an option to give students the opportunity to take other classes, have an additional study hall, and cut class sizes. As a result, this proposal appears to be on a fast track despite resistance from some administrators, teachers, and members of the community, which creates questions. What's the rush? My understanding is the board passed additional exemptions from phys ed last year. Have we been able to gather data to show if this had a positive or negative effect? I asked the high school principal about the current number of PE exemptions and early release. He explained about 400 students receive early release or double early release. He said over 300, I think his number is 375, students currently receive a PE exemption. Not to mention students who can and do take PE during the summer. Why is an additional exemption needed when over half of our students already have this opportunity anyway each year? The administration and phys ed teachers have shared data and research on the importance of phys ed and why they think the district should remain a five-day physical education requirement. Are you ignoring this information? If so, what are your reasons? What is the push? What's the data? Give us the data. Be transparent. My understanding is a phys ed teacher retired last year. If concerned with class sizes, why was this position not posted and replaced? I get the impression that physical education is not meeting your expectations. If phys ed is not meeting your expectations, what are you doing to try to help it or to improve it? I can't believe that cutting it is a way to improve it. Community surveys have been used in the past to gain more feedback from the community on significant changes. Has there been a community survey on this? If not, why? Coaches. Phys ed teachers are a great source of coaches. While I understand we have coaches that are in other academic disciplines and some coaches from the community, I would ask you to consider these questions. What percentage of our phys ed teachers are coaches? What percentage of our coaches come from other academic disciplines? Compare the two. Based on my time serving on the athletic leadership team, I would argue that it will make it harder for your athletic director to fill coaching positions if our phys ed department continues down the path of being devalued. Morale. Dunlap has a good thing going. My family has been happy with our move into this district 8 years ago. We have gotten to know the people, teachers, administrators, and yes, even board members. We have watched the morale and school spirit grow in that time. That being said, I recommend caution to the board. There is no better way to destroy morale and school spirit in the community than making your teachers and or administrators not feel valued in the decision-making process. One department being cut or devalued has an effect on other school employees. There can be unintended consequences. I would urge you to find ways to get as much community feedback as possible, gathering as much data as possible from changes already in place, and do additional research before making any further cuts to the phys ed department. In closing, just because the state allows us to change from diet 5 days to 3 days per week does not mean it is the right thing to do for our students. Reviewing the number of exemptions already given an amount of early release students at the high school, creating an additional exemption which cuts into the phys ed curriculum yet again, to use a math term, doesn't add up. Understand that cuts have consequences. Knowing that there is resistance among teachers and administrators on this issue, the process of making continued curriculum change should involve research, reviewing data of current changes, and community survey. These findings can come to the board so you can make an educated decision. Maybe this is oversimplified, but appearances are everything. My impression from things I've heard or seen in my relationships with those in the community is that the board, it feels like this is being rushed. Opinion and perception of some board members and supporters has replaced data and research presented to them with opinion and perception. If this is the case, it is a disturbing trend. And with that, I'll close because there's some other comments I know I can't say. So thank you for your time and consideration.
Good evening. My name is Jacob Siekman. I'm a 2015 graduate of Dunlap High School and currently attend Illinois State University as a physical education, teacher education major with an endorsement in health education. As you can guess, I'm here to talk about the physical education proposal, and as well as what the physical education department said, and as well as what Mr. Klein just said, all the research and facts are true. Just wanted to add also that this current generation of individuals and students, this is the first generation that they are expected to not reach the lifespan of their parents because of physical activity. We have all these medical improvements, technological improvements, and improvements in our nutrition. And because they're not physically active, they are expected not to reach the same life expectancy as their parents. I also seek to tackle this proposal in a more personal manner. I, as a student here, all 4 years, hours 0 through 7, I was an athlete and I was in a club, and I had plenty of time to get a 3.5 GPA, apply for college, have a social life, be a captain on a team, everything in regards to that, and be just fine. Maybe these teachers or these students and maybe these parents need to look and make sure that they're not overloading their kids with work. Physical education is needed, and I never took an exemption just by being in season or any other parts of that. I had enough time where I could even graduate early if I wanted to, because I had completed everything I needed to do here. I also took AP classes, and I also took dual credit courses in preparation for college. The only reason I didn't graduate early is because I have spring sport, and it was important to me to be in a spring sport to be physically active. If you're truly here to talk about trying to prepare your students for college, part of that is time management, and part of that is you can't just step out of things that you don't want to do, just like PE, to make time for other things. Sometimes you have to stick around, and time management is a life skill, not just a high school skill or a college skill. It also promotes teamwork in the classroom and cooperation with colleagues and so on to be in displaced classrooms, because they're just as important as any other core subjects. So if you're really here to teach students and try to prepare them for college, then keeping them in physical education is the way to do it, so that they learn that time management skill and they can't just duck and hide from things that they don't want to do, just in preparation to have more time. Because there is plenty of time, and my time here at Dunlap High School has proven that. Thank you.
So a lot of students, current students, voice to the course. So I'm Asya Adnan. I'm and I just wanted to talk about like the proposed curriculum changes and the PE changes. So I've taken one AP class. I'm currently in 4, and I'm planning to graduate with 10. So I think I know the student perspective of an AP course pretty well. And taking the test, it's difficult. It's a college test, and the class is created to accommodate for that test. It's the teachers, they know the students, and they know the test, and they've created the class in a way that prepares us. And we have prerequisites leading up to the class to prepare us for the test. We can create the class any way we want here. We can make it pass-fail, we can curve it, we can not have any prerequisites. That doesn't change the test. The test in May will come, and it will be as difficult as it has always been. So the classes created now are created to accommodate for that test. One example of that is the Spanish curriculum. In Spanish 4 pre-AP, we speak long, insightful conversations in Spanish because when the test comes, we have to write an argumentative paper in Spanish. And by the time we get there, Spanish 5 AP has prepared us to be able to do that as if it was second nature. Not only that, we have prerequisites set in place that help build a foundation for our AP classes, so it isn't as difficult as it would be. In Lingua 1 honors, we learned Greek tragedies and we talked about Romeo and Juliet, so by the time we got to AP Lit, when we're comparing to Hamlet, we can do that and we can create the connections we need to be able to analyze them on the AP test. In Lingua 2 honors, we learned how to properly create an argument and find evidence that supports it. So by the time we get to AP Lit, where we don't have the time to learn how to create an argument, we have to create connections between literature. We don't have time to learn how to write an essay. Lingua 2 honors has prepared us for that and created that foundation we need to be able to write essays as if it was second nature for us. Not only does it create the foundation of knowledge, but it also creates the foundation of hard work. I'm currently in 4 APs and 2 honors classes, and it's a lot of work. But the only reason I'm able to do that is because in freshman year I had honors biology, which was honestly one of the only hard classes in freshman year, and it wasn't an easy A. We had to study for it, and with the transition of coming from middle school to high school, we were able to learn how to properly study for a class that isn't easy. In sophomore year, we had Lingua 2 honors and World History AP, and once again, that's building the foundation of taking hard classes. So by the time I'm here as a junior, I can handle the workload. High school itself is hard, and along with advanced classes, we're teenagers, there's so much drama going on and all that. It's hard to deal with all of that, and as the previous speakers have mentioned, there is a breaking point, and we don't want to overload by introducing stuff that is too hard and too difficult too early. And going along with that, we are students and we are still kids, and because of that, there's an importance for PE, especially 5 days a week. So I'm currently on the PE exempt, and one of the only things that's keeping me sane as all these classes and all my extracurriculars come into play is cross-country, and is the ability to go and run and just clear my mind and be able to literally sweat out the stress from everything. And it's one of the most important things and important parts of my day. And I know PE is that spot for a lot of students, because a lot of students who are in PE aren't in another physical education the day. That is their physical activity, and they need that as a mental break. We don't have recess at high school. We have 25 minutes for lunch. The middle school has 30. We don't get that mental break that we need, especially if we're going into these harder classes. And with the proposal to make it 3 days in order to add more classes, if we reduce the amount of breaks we have and increase the workload, what's going to happen? Because at the end of the day, all of these decisions and all of these changes should be to reflect the physical, mental, and social health of our students. That's why we're all here, that's why we go to school. And that should be our top priority, because we can always go take more classes, we can always go to school, we can always get our associate's degree, our bachelor's, whatever. but we cannot compromise the mental, social, and physical health, because that, once it's damaged, it's hard to repair. We will go to college. We will graduate college whether it takes 2 years or 6 years. But what we can't get back is our high school, our 4 years of high school into our teenage years. And it shouldn't be spent, for us, it shouldn't be spent studying, and we should be able to create, I don't want to look back on my 4 years and only remember the stress and the anxiety I had trying to complete my classes, but I'd rather remember the fact that I went to football games and I was able to hang out with my friends, and I was able to have that balance, because that's something you can't get back. Thank you.
Thank you very much for those who spoke this evening. This now concludes the public participation portion of the meeting. The board will now move on to the information discussion items. The school activity account reports are included in the packet. Are there any questions? The monthly drug testing report for Dunlap High School is included in the packet. Are there any questions?
It's very hard to hear you.
The monthly drug testing reports for Dunlap High School is included in the board packet. Are there any questions? Next, Ms. Stansel will present information regarding co-op, work-based learning, and trades.
teacher here at Dunlap High School for the last 3 years, and in the presentation that I emailed you guys, it's got the course information on there about how co-op is a capstone course. Here at Dunlap High School, we've always had seniors take the course, and according to our ISBE handbook, it mentions that it's a course for juniors and seniors. And that's what I go by. I go by the roles in the handbook because ISB is the one who provided that for the co-op course. Let's see. I will mention I did do a little research over the last couple weeks. The Mid-Atlantic schools, most of the schools in the area do offer, and in Illinois, they offer it mainly to seniors. And I did find out that East Peoria does offer a junior and a senior level course. And I think, yes, it's East Peoria. The junior course is for students with IEPs, is who they offer co-op to. And those students work in the cafeteria during their junior year. And then Washington High School, they just started up their junior program as well. And I think they just started that this year. They did have one student apply as a junior, but she ended up dropping out. And I asked the teacher there if they would allow a junior who would enroll for co-op take it again their senior year, because in co-op you have to have the classroom portion and the work portion at the same time. You have to be enrolled in the course because the students get credit for the course, and they also get credit for going to work. Students are usually released early, sometime during the day, just because of their schedule. When they go to work, they have to get paid. This is a paid position to be in co-op. It's not volunteer, it's not job shadow. It is a paid position. And I have the students provide copies of pay stubs as proof that they are working. They also provide me a weekly report, so every Tuesday I have them fill out a weekly report, and they have to tell me what they worked that prior week. That way I know what they actually worked. Students, they must provide their own transportation. That's part of the ISB handbook and the rules. Students must work at least 10 hours a week. The state recommends 10 to 20 during the school week, and they can work as many times or many hours as they want on the weekends. Students must also work in a position where they're not supervised by a family member, and that's for evaluation purposes, because their work grade depends on that evaluation. And I also, for their work grade, I also keep track of their weekly reports and make sure they're turning those in on time, as well as their pay stubs. So it's not a whole lot of grading process for me, but that evaluation is the largest grade that they will get, because they get 2 credit hours for the year on the work portion. Co-op is a year-round position, and it's not meant also for students who are enrolled or employed in temporary work, like seasonal work. Students must be in a legally accepted co-op position for one's age and are safely defined by the co-op state guidelines. They must also be in a position where they cannot be self-employed or work where they keep track of their own hours. I also mentioned in the presentation that since students in co-op are enrolled for the whole year, the first semester I mainly talk about, we talk about a lot of job skills, we do mock interviews, we talk about current resumes, we create LinkedIn accounts to get them prepared for life after high school. And we also, second semester, we work on I just use the Dave Ramsey curriculum, which is provided by Perfect. They pay for that. So it's a really big deal to me and to the kids that we go through the financial stuff right before they graduate high school. That's something that they won't forget when they leave. And also, speaking of that curriculum, last year I had 4 or 5 students who started their first Roth IRA just from going through that curriculum. I did mention something about some of the teacher requirements. In order to teach co-op, you have to be a CTE teacher. You must be a teacher that has had at least 2,000 hours of related work experience outside of education. And also, in order to be a co-op teacher, ISU, they provide teachers in the area with 2 co-op courses in order to be certified. So it's just 2 courses you take, and those are usually during the summer. And I think they offer that somewhere here in the Peoria area. Also, something I mentioned too is when students register for co-op, I don't know how many kids actually register. And for every 10 kids, the co-op teacher has to have at least 1 prep hour for every 10 kids. So, like this year right now I have 10. So what that means is I have 1 prep hour. If I had 15 kids who sign up for co-op, I would have 2 prep hours. Because according to the ISBE handbook, it mentions for every student I get at least a half an hour per week. I know the first year when we brought co-op back, when it was gone for a few years, we had 15 and I had 2 prep hours. These last couple years I only had 10 or 11. I do take maybe 1 more. It just depends on the circumstances. I know last semester, in the spring semester, I had 11, and that was just because I had 2 students who worked at ATS in the same building, so it was easy for me to get there. Do you guys have any questions so far?
Did you find out if we opened it up to juniors, would they have to take the course again, the in-school? You have to take it twice.
They have to be, in order to get the credit, you have to be in the classroom and in the work portion, yeah. But I don't know, the Washington teacher, I don't know what her curriculum's gonna look like, but she said it was meant usually for students who would graduate early, and they would have it more as like an independent class.
So do you have a sense that if you had more time, that you could have another full class? I don't know if this is accurate. Or do you feel like there's not a demand for students wanting to get into co-op? Or do you know?
That would be a constant question.
So last year we had the number to have two full classes. This year we didn't have the number, so there wasn't enough interest on that.
I would just ask, do you have a suggestion how we maybe could promote this more? And I'm a strong supporter of this. Is there a way that we can support, promote it more than this?
I do know that the art counselors promote it, and we started in December, and they do come around to, I know, because I was a junior home or I did last year. I know last year they did come around and they talk about what junior or future seniors would sign up for their classes, and co-ops have been one of there. It's always been promoted. I always make sure it's been promoted. Usually it's just word of mouth, I guess. I always talk to my classes in general, my software apps kids, my web design kids.
And they have to do that by February 1st to get in the next year.
Yes, they have to apply. And I give them a little bit of leeway because I know in the past we used to have registration in like by December, and now I think they extended it a little bit last year. So I did it to February 1st because I don't really know who's going to be enrolled in it until later that spring.
And then do you solicit businesses, or do they all find their own, or should you have a business list for them to pick up?
On the application, I asked the kids for 2 areas of interest, of what they're interested in. And then I'll pull them in one by one, and I'll ask them if there's a certain business or a certain place where they'd like to be hired, and they would tell me. And it just really depends on the business. I mean, if they're willing to take on our kids, that'd be awesome. Sometimes when I call businesses, they're not accepting students, or maybe they might only do it for no pay, but we can't do that in co-op. So it also depends on their experience. I know last year I tried to get a kid on at Caterpillar. He didn't have any work experience or any activity experience, and that was a big downfall for the kid. Yeah, so sometimes they do come with us for jobs, and sometimes they don't. And I would place them somewhere. Usually in the summertime, by July 1st, is when I have to know. Because when school starts, they have to have a job on day 1 of school.
I just had a question about the work-based learning. I understand there's a welding program like the CNA program and EMT. Is that something that we can look at for the future, or are those similar?
So yeah, and I want to make the distinction between co-op and work-based learning. They're not the same thing, but we tend to lump them together. But yes, and we were aware of this, the emerging welding program, EMS program at ICC, and that's certainly something we can offer next week to our students. It's just something that they're not finished with their paperwork on what that looks like for ICC. So as soon as that does, we can roll that out. If the student builds a schedule here in December or January, and they get in there, we can still change that whenever that information becomes current. So, yeah, those are 2 new offerings on the horizon.
I think those are great opportunities, so thank you.
Anything else from Ms. Stanton?
No additional questions? All right, thank you so much for your time presenting today. Information regarding the new course proposal, revisions and deletions from the Dunlap High School is included in the packet. Mr. Avery is here to summarize the information.
Okay. Before we start, I want to give this conversation some context. Last February, we presented the board with a 3-year academic plan that was universally accepted. The purpose of the plan was to allow us, DHS staff and administration, to be proactive rather than reactive. The plan was developed and shared after meeting hours of discussion and collaboration with our faculty and district level administration. It would be fair to note that not every one of our professionals agreed with the changes in that plan, but we did come to a consensus on a 3-year plan that would increase AP offerings and also increase access to those classes for underclassmen. The plan supports taking our AP course offerings from 13 AP courses in 2017 to 20 AP courses by the year 2022. Additionally, this opens access to underclassmen to those courses from 1 AP course that freshmen and sophomores can take in 2017 to 6 of those courses in 2022. I think we all agree that that's a significant increase. Responsible change. Through this process of careful consideration and measured growth, we offered AP Computer Science Principles last year for the first time. This course has been open to sophomores through seniors. We are proud to say that Mr. Nessler's class averaged a 4.2 on the AP exam, and 100% of the students scored a 3 or higher on that exam. Yeah, give him some shout out. Without prompting or provocation, utilizing his experience and expertise as a classroom teacher, Mr. Nessler made the recommendation to our ILT, our instructional leadership team, to allow freshmen to take this course starting with the 2020-2021 school year. That's typically how these curriculum changes happen. Experienced practitioners working in the field reflect on their practices, student abilities, and consider how to better serve and prepare our students. Flash forward to the graphic we got for the 18-19 school comparison, if we can get there. Here you got that. No, it's not this one, it's a different graphic.
It's dark.
It's the dark graphic. It's on that 18-19 school comparison. Well, we'll flash forward that. Here, we'll pull that up. Through this type of reflective practice over the past 40 to 50 years, Dunlap High School has become the best public high school in Central Illinois. Yes, we have a natural awesome product, there's no doubt about that. But the vast majority of our students come from households and families that truly value education. But equally important are the dedicated and highly skilled group of professional educators here working daily to provide real educational experiences for our students. Set aside the niche ratings, the AP honor roll, the U.S. News, Better Schools, and Best Schools, and look at the data provided in the accompanying chart right here. When compared to some of the top high schools in the state area, DHS has the highest rate of post-secondary enrollment and the lowest rate of college remediation. We talk about dollars spent in college, dollars not spent on remediation are dollars well conserved. Most impressively, we are doing this with the lowest instructional expenditure per pupil. A lot of really good things have been going on here to make that happen, but they can all be reduced to two primary factors: top-notch people and sound financial stewardship. Our new course offerings. That being said, we've kind of been caught off guard with the recent significant requests for changes to our handbook and curriculum guide. We've tried to make the best of it and have spent many hours working through the list of requests. Many of the best professionals of our best professionals have come together and worked through each request with the goal of meeting the board's expectations while preserving what we know through our experiences in our own education to be the best way to serve students. The changes we are proposing are a combination of our 3-year plan and recent requests from a few board members. Many of these proposals are in addition to those presented in the 3-year plan. That being said, please take a look at the cover sheet for the changes and additional access we are recommending, and feel free to ask any questions. Before concluding, I would like to say that we are absolutely opposed to reducing physical education requirements to 3 days per week. We have discussed this at length and see no advantage to our students. Over the past 3 years, we have opened up considerable opportunities to our students for flexibility in their schedule and to take additional courses if they so choose. Most recently, we had 320 students earn credit during the summer. We currently have 375 students on B waivers, and nearly 400 students have early or double early release, thus giving our students plenty of flexibility and opportunity to pursue either additional academic courses, additional study time, or employment if they so choose. Additionally, you simply won't find any studies that indicate daily physical activity is bad for kids. So with that, I will open up for any questions that we have for our new course proposal.
Yeah, I'd like to address, we're very compelled to address how we got where we are now and where we're sitting based on all the public participation, and I've seen a lot of social media as well.
And so, you know, I'd like to speak to the parents, Mr. Klein, the students, and you know, the teachers in the PE department, questioning, you know, in all those different sectors of stakeholders, you know, how we got here, why are we fast tracking, why weren't our teachers and administrators involved, why didn't we follow our established policies and practices as we've done before when we had questions, and as a board. You know, a board, we govern by consensus. And here, it seems that we have a couple of board members pushing things through, not using the policy and practices, and disregarding all of our experts that we hired and all the data that they could have provided, but we went forward before we even asked them for their recommendation. And in the past, we've always done presentations. So we hear this is where the curriculum is going, or this is what the building administrators are thinking. We say, you know, we'd really like to take a deeper look at that. We have concerns that maybe we're not keeping up with the other schools on offering more classes. Can we provide more access? And then, as in the past, we had Scott Adrian and our former curriculum director and assistant curriculum director provide a presentation and present a three-year plan. And we all said, oh, okay, and we agreed to it, and it was implemented. And then we come back, and in August, when school's starting, a couple board members meet with our acting curriculum director, ask for some changes. Before he can do anything, we all of a sudden have it on the September board agenda. And the board members, mainly, I look at the board packet released on a Saturday for the following Wednesday, and I see things on the board agenda that I'm not even aware of. And then there's no attached information, and I have to send an email to our superintendent and our president and say, what's this about? Well, obviously, nobody knew what this was about. And so there was a rush to get something a couple of days before, and we received an email saying this is what we're thinking. And I strongly recommended that we table this, because nobody was involved, including board members, and yet it was still on the agenda, but I think it was pushed back enough that it was, well, these are proposals. But it was over 100 pages of edited curriculum guides and academic changes without any input at all. My concern is that this kind of behavior is a board not operating as one. Sure, it's by consensus, everything doesn't have to be unanimous, but the board needs to know what's going on, and we need to engage the administration and the experts that we hire, and not just fast track this. It derails not only our faculty and our staff, our administration, but it derails the board as well. And you know, since this isn't the first time, and I hate being the one that always sounds like I'm being divisive, or I'm being the board police, but this one, like some other ones, really does derail the board, and it's not effective governance. And then I say to the board, and I'm embarrassed, we move one step forward, and then we take 10 steps back. And we've heard over and over about there's frustration, it's demoralizing. I think there's questioning, why am I here? Why am I in this position that I've been hired to do when board members think they know better and they step on not only toes, as I said before, but into their shoes and push something through? That's not how a board governs. That's not how we keep the best of the best. And our teachers are highly marketable, as well as our administrators, as has been seen that in our district office, we've had turnover in the last 3 or so years of every district leader except for one, who came in a little bit later. And are we going to keep that going because we second guess or we step in the shoes of the people that we hire? We know we have a teacher shortage. We talk about it as a board. Everybody knows that. Our teachers and our administrators are highly, highly marketable. So where are we going to be next year? If we keep doing this, you guys might as well be hired by the district and you do their jobs, because this isn't going to be sustainable. If we don't value our organization, we're not going to have one. Dunlap is going to be proud of, and that brings parents with their kids to our district.
Correct, you're right, it's not, I'm not sure where that got misconstrued. It was previously offered for sophomores, they didn't do very well at all in that course, so we moved it back to juniors. And we moved film studies down to sophomores, so hopefully they can do better and have more success in film studies.
Okay, so you are removing one English, but adding one for sophomores?
Right. Correct.
I appreciate the time that the administrators and the staff had a meeting with us. We had a really good meeting with that Dr. Dearman organized, and also Mr. Adrian. So I appreciate all the work that the teachers did in looking at these, and I'm really glad that you're adding resource management and civics. I think there was a problem where some students were taking the summer school classes and not having a lot of choices, and so I'm so glad that they have now, with this proposal, if it's approved, not only the AP options, but also the options for taking required courses, because I think a lot of kids are very driven to accomplish that goal, and so that was one of the things in our proposal, and I'm happy that you approved it, so thank you.
So along these lines, this is a lot of changes, there's a lot here, and we are apprehensive to see what this is going to do to our master schedule and our number of sections we're going to need, what it's going to do to our staffing. So we're holding our breath, but there's a lot of people going to contribute to this, so I hope that it goes well for us.
And I was just going to add, I know that there could be some additional costs if there were some sections that need to be added for some of these courses, and I'm not opposed, if the board thinks that we should not have additional costs in doing this and only doing it incrementally and allowing spots for those openings that we currently have. Because if kids took the resource management and civics as a sophomore, then of course they wouldn't take it the next year and the next year, so then it would open up. It would just take longer, for it to filter out. So if we need to do that and just add, incrementally and not add sections and costs in this first and second year, that.
Yeah, we won't know that till January when we put numbers in. We can talk about with Dr. Dearman about section numbers and costs, and then he can bring it back to you to see if you want that section to fly or curb it. But yeah, we can definitely talk about that.
Can I follow up on that just with the cost? What is the cost for all of the requested additions and
It's really, I don't want to say it's impossible to project, but it almost is, because we have no idea where the students are going to move to in those sections and see what sections they need to add. We may not need to add any. I mean, we have a good idea what we're going to have to add a few, but it's really difficult to project. We'll know more once they start to come in January, though.
And I just have one comment for Mr. Adrian and the team and all the support staff. I know you put a tremendous amount of hours into this. I know I've asked you several questions, Mr. Adrian as well. It took me several hours to read through this and understand it, and I know how much work went into this from your entire team, the entire administrative staff. So I want to say thank you and applaud all of you for putting the time into that and getting this ready for us.
Well, thank you. I mean, we have an awesome leadership team here, so I'm very thankful for them.
Are there any further questions regarding the curriculum guide policy?
I had a question on the math that we found out when we were at the ICC dual credit meeting on Friday. One of the courses is the college algebra, and it came up when the speaker was talking that the algebra, I think it's called College Algebra 115, that it's not on the gen ed list which is something that the state puts out that are courses that are most likely to transfer to a four-year college. Would there be plans to continue this, or maybe just to put in the curriculum guide that it is not on this gen ed list?
Right now, we plan to continue offering it, but with Mr. Olson, he would recommend us to change that if he thought that would be the best for our students. Mr. Olson and Mr. Senor would look at that. But yeah, we'll look at that every year.
And I wanted to thank everybody for the time that you all did for this. And I'm new here and kind of asked what made this go so fast. That was your question. Is that when I was talking to a counselor, I found out that registration was going to happen in November, which did kind of push the curriculum guide, because then I was told that they weren't going to review the curriculum guide till February, but they're registering in November, so it was a little backwards there. And
Well, that's because we had already done it the previous February with the 3-year plan. So we had done that, yeah, that's how we rolled that whole thing out, changed it then for this week.
But when would the students know about what courses they were going to take now? They would be informed before November meeting or November registration?
Well, they would go by the previous year's handbook, correct?
They do the review, and it's a process, and it's beginning the second semester, and then that will be for the following curriculum guide next year. So that was in place, but now this got pushed faster, because they do it in February for the following year for the curriculum guide. They don't change it mid-semester, but, they wouldn't change it in February. They're doing that for the next school year. So February 20, we'll be doing it for the 2021 school year, but that's usually the process in practice.
But this curriculum guide doesn't have in there what's going to be offered in November. This present one.
Well, they didn't anticipate any changes.
Obviously,
Because there were, within the 3-year
So the changes that were in the 3-year plan, you're saying we're not.
Right, so when we met as a leadership team in September, when we came back, my conversation with the leadership team was, we've got our course proposals about 90% done. So I said, no surprises at this point. So they felt good, all the work had already been done, and then obviously we were a little surprised and had to go back and revamp a lot of things, but we were prepared to go forward with those changes as we had planned for, with a few minor tweaks. So all these changes, no, they were not going to happen this year. But they did, they happened. They're ready for you to vote. Yes.
Those will be reflected when the children go to register. Somebody asked me that question. When the children go to register, will those new changes be plugged into the electronic system?
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, if there are no further questions, we're going to move on then. Thank you again for all your hard work, Mr. Adrian, Dr. Gearman, all the teachers that were involved, as well as our board members. The early childhood education bright futures. Oh, I'm sorry, Dennis, thank you, Dr. Gearman.
Alyssa, you can stay there. I want to be very brief, so Casey and Mrs. Bond. I'm not going to reiterate many of the things that have just been discussed at the table. We had a joint committee meeting that following the last large meeting we had in here. I got together with Mr. Adrian and then several of the department chairs and leadership people within the high school, as well as Mrs. Blue, Mrs. Henry, and Mrs. Disharoon, and had an all-day meeting and hashed out a lot of these things. This is just, I provided my notes. It was an all-day meeting, so it's kind of a summary. It's not the Bible of what was done, but he's presenting the course proposals. That's the Bible. There are some things left over that still need to be discussed with the middle school and mathematics. So that has not been resolved, but that's kind of been tabled because these other issues were a little more pressing in time. That is yet to be determined. So again, thank you to Mr. Adrian, his instructional leadership team, and all the various people that came in on that. So I think it's moving in the next. Thank you.